Hello and welcome back to the least consistent F1 Manager series on YouTube. We're here with Alpine. We're in Austria today. The new patch is released, which is, I'm going to claim, is what I was waiting for. Definitely hasn't been a case of I've been very busy and at conventions doing panels and talking to you lovely lot and streaming and stuff. Look, there's been a lot going on lately. We're back today. There's a new patch. I'm very excited to get into things. Shall we just do this? Yeah, let's. How are you lovely lot? I hope you're all doing amazing. I would like to firstly issue a little bit of an apology for the fact that we've not been more consistent with this series. I'll be honest with you, I have been spinning a lot of plates, probably too many plates. The plates, metaphorically, they're falling off and shattering. The Alpine series has been one such one. I must admit, when I'm getting messaged by people daily, has the series stopped? When's the series back? It does actually fill me with a sense of excitement to sit down and record things because I know there are people who want more of this. And believe me when I tell you, it's very much my aim to give you more of this. Now, last time out, we had a pretty decent Grand Prix showing. Today, I'm going to hope we can do more of the same. Just as a little reminder, there is no new parts coming this season. We are already planning for next year with lots of research going on. But despite that, I'm really hoping we can give a good showing at Austria. It's a Grand Prix where top speed and high speed cornering are key, and they are definitely some of the big strengths of our car. I mean, you can see here, right up there, the third fastest team for most of the categories, to be fair. We have a very well-rounded car. With that in mind, with Alonso and Ocon in high confidence, I'm hoping that we can show, well, what we're made of today. And some additional good news, no rain forecast, which is a big thumbs up as far as I'm concerned. When it comes to the performance targets, I do think we can be a little bit more ambitious than what obviously is normally defaultly set. That said, obviously there is a new patch for F1 Manager, patch 1.8. They have overhauled how tyres work and perform. Tyre wear matters a lot more, which means you can't just push on them all the time. They've also tweaked the fuel delta slightly, so it's a little bit of a learning experience for me. But I'm having a feeling that Esteban Ocon, with his 96 smoothness, which means he's going to be able to be super nice to his tyres, could be very, very good for us in this new update. We'll have to see how he gets on today. So, of course, heading into Austria, some things never change. Alonso, you aren't getting any better anytime soon. Oscar Piastri is going to come in and be our driver. And because I'm still a scumbag, I have just simulated practice sessions. Let's get to quali. So in terms of hopes, dreams and aspirations, I mean, based off what we've seen off the third practice session, as suspected, we are kind of the third best car on the grid. Of course, in the championship, we are doing battle with Red Bull. Red Bull have been slipping up a little bit. Hoping we can capitalise on that today. If we could outperform them, if I'm not mistaken, we would be ahead of them as we quickly approach the summer break. At Austria, overtaking's pretty common, so this isn't the most important qualifying session, but nevertheless, we want to be in the best possible position. I want to be challenging towards the front if we can be. Let's get into qualifying and see how we get on, shall we? So first qualifying session with Alpine on this new patch, and one of the big things I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing at some point is cars moving out the way better. And another thing that's worth noting actually with the new patch, the performance level of tyres based on wear is more significant, and as a result of that, these soft tyres that you use in qualifying, once you've done one set of kind of flying laps with them and one run out, the second time around, they are not going to be as fast. So tyre usage matters a lot more in quali. In this quali session, we set a time initially in Q1. There was no traffic, no drama, and, well, I was lazy. I just kept our drivers in. We didn't need to go out again. We were, you know, comfortably in the top 15. You can see here Alonso 4th, Ocon 7th. It was very, very straightforward. And to an extent, that continued actually into Q2. We sent our drivers out early. You can see here there was a little bit of a queue to get out. Verstappen, and I think it was Norris, kind of keen to get out early too. But as we were coming round the final few corners into Sector 3 of our flying laps, I noticed Alonso, little evil red Dorito chip in the top corner of his car, the little icon kind of indicating he does have some engine wear issues. We're going to have to keep an eye on that, but with the flying laps done, you can see Alonso and Ocon about 3 to 4 tenths behind the Red Bulls. That's kind of where we'd been in practice and in the previous session. When I looked at both cars, it turns out the engine issue is going to be an issue for both of them, so something to keep an eye on. For our final run-ins of Q2 here, we actually went out on the worn tyres, and there was, well, very, very slight improvements, the tiniest of improvements, really. The track, obviously, getting rubbered in now with more and more runs, but on the worn softs, we weren't going to go too much quicker. Good news for us, though, 5th and 6th fastest again. I feel like that's where we were just destined to be this weekend. Into Q3 we went. We had 2 sets of softs that were fresh that we could use. There was going to be a little bit of a dilemma as to whether or not to keep some for the race itself. Maybe do both runnings here on a single set. In the end, you can see first set of flying laps. A Ferrari up the road. Alonso navigated him. And then Esteban Ocon just got past him as well. Now, granted, they have passed the Ferrari back marker there on kind of its running out lap on straights. But nevertheless, it's just a nice sight when you go past cars that don't block us. And ultimately, both drivers, Alonso and Ocon, set times pretty comparable to what they've done in the earlier sessions. Ocon actually a little bit closer to Alonso. Of course, both drivers with kind of similarly worn engines, but I think for this race at least, we're just going to have to kind of stomach that. In the end, I decided that with us sat in 5th and 6th, we were just going to save some softs for the race. So in this final running, we went and used the same tyres that we just used. I wasn't expecting massive improvements. You can see Alonso was slower in his first sector. Ocon did improve a little bit everywhere, to be fair. But as the checkered flag flew, well, neither driver improved significantly. 5th and 6th, we remained. Bottas and Gasly, really the only 2 drivers who could possibly knock us down. And, well, the AlphaTauri, not particularly quick. Bottas maybe had an outside chance, but you can see here, despite improving his time, he was still a couple of tenths behind. And ultimately, 5th and 6th is where we were. Perez is going to be on pole. Worth noting, Schumacher has taken an engine penalty, so a sign that maybe some of the AI teams are starting to wrestle with that. But as far as qualifying sessions go, I'd consider that quite the success. Straightforward, no drama, what I want to see. Hopefully it's going to be a similar tale on Sunday. Let's go see how we get on, shall we? So in terms of race strategy for Austria, this is normally a one-stop race. Even on the new patch with more tyre wear, it's still a one-stop race. That's kind of how it is in real life. In terms of strategy, I am confident that we have the 3rd fastest car. Even on hard tyres, I think if other teams behind us start on mediums, with maybe the exception of the Mercedes, we are going to be fast enough to be competitive on the kind of, you know, the harder tyre. And with that in mind, I think it's a pretty good tyre to be on. What it offers us the opportunity to is basically wait out a safety car. Austria in game, you get a lot of incidents. It gives us a lot of flexibility. We could pit potentially as early as lap 33 for mediums. Equally, if we decide that we want to wait out a safety car, if a free stop is our best shot at making some progress and maybe challenging the likes of Red Bull and Ferrari, there is even the option, you know, to go onto kind of soft tyres much later on, potentially kind of 20 laps later. The hard tyre offers up a whole lot of opportunity and, well, different strategies, I suppose. The one minor scary thing is if we get an early safety car that allows anyone who starts on mediums or softs to switch to hards to the end, we might be in a little bit of trouble. But that's the risk you run with a one-stop strategy. I think this is the only realistic way we can challenge Red Bull and Ferrari, so that's why we're going to go for it. Hopefully the risk pays off. Let's see how we get on, shall we?
I hope I'm not tempting fate here, but there are quite a few clouds overhead as we look at the lineup on the grid. Looking at Fernando Alonso here. With a top 10 position on the grid, this race could really go either way for them. Further back, we've got Esteban Ocon. They might not be in the top 3 spots, but things could change fast once the race gets underway. Will their hard work pay off today? It's the race we've all been waiting for. It's the Austrian Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
Okay, first race on this new patch, starting on the hard tyres. Very, very paranoid of the Mercedes behind. Also paranoid of the fact I can't push the tyres like I have been in previous races. We are going to have to manage things. We are going to have to be sensible. You cannot just go crazy on your tyres and your fuel. And in fact, you can see here to start this race, Alonso's got a great start. Ocon currently side by side with the Mercedes, but through turn 3 we go here, still with our noses ahead just about. Although I say this, Hamilton, he's still lurking up the inside. If we just look at tyre compounds, it's a real mix actually of strategies. I'm kind of glad to see that we're not the only team starting on the hard tyre. That gives me kind of some assurances. This isn't the most crazy idea in the world. Worth noting that of the teams in front of us, both Ferrari starting on mediums, Verstappen starting on the hards going similar to us, and Perez on the mediums leading the way. But yeah, going to be very, very interesting to see how this race goes. I feel like compared to the previous patch, you can't race as closely to teams around you for as long, and you can't push in the same way mindlessly. So a bit more patience needed, a bit more planning and strategy perhaps needed too. Our main aim, I think, early on here has to be just to try and stay within touching distance of the Ferraris and Red Bulls in front. If we could, with Ocon, potentially just about get away from Hamilton, get ahead by a second going into the next lap, and avoid the DRS catastrophe that could be a Mercedes jumping us there, that would be ideal. I am going to tell the drivers just to push it, to really have a go through this lap. We don't want to, obviously, deploy our battery completely. That would not be ideal. We don't want to run out of battery and be then a victim of the teams behind. There's been a lockup in behind. I think it's one of the Aston Martins that has gone off. I think it might have been Sebastian Vettel. I don't think he's taken anyone out, so there's not going to be a safety car or anything. But yeah, Vettel locking up early here. Kind of a sign of what I expect to see at this race. This is a race where, at least when I've played it in game, you get incidents, you get safety cars, especially going up the hill on the first corner. Incidents definitely can happen. You can see the gap to Hamilton might be over a second if we're good here with Ocon through this corner into the detection zone. Unfortunately, we've not quite got that second ahead, and with that in mind, we've got to be a little bit patient. But as long as we can stay in DRS of the cars in front, it's going to make it very difficult here for Lewis Hamilton to kind of close the gap. And we'll maybe get in behind. I thought for a second we were going to have an incident. Verstappen and Sainz are racing wheel to wheel. They are compromising each other a lot. In fact, I say Sainz, no. What I mean is Verstappen and Alonso and Leclerc, who, well, both have just been passed by Alonso. What's happened here? Verstappen and Leclerc were squabbling. I mistakenly thought it was Sainz. It wasn't. Really good move by Alonso. And then with DRS here, the Red Bull didn't have it. And Alonso just cruises up. And he moves up into second place, or third place. Okay, I mean, we'll take it. Not what I expected to happen in the opening stages here. Going to be challenging, I think, for him to hold on to this position, but we'll see what he can do with it. Already 2 seconds behind Perez and Sainz starting on the mediums, but Leclerc now stuck behind Alonso and Verstappen. Bearing in mind, Leclerc is on that faster medium tyre. This is not doing his strategy a whole load of good. Hamilton, by the way, is right up behind Ocon. Realistically, Alonso isn't going to hold on to third for very long here. But as long as we can stay ahead of the Mercedes, that has to be the main aim for this opening part of the race. Of course, 71 laps. It's a very, very short lap here in Austria. And yeah, things can change very, very quickly. I said things could change quickly. Alonso heading back now, down in 5th. Leclerc has managed to get past both on these medium tyres on this patch. He will just be a faster car. Hopefully we can use that to our advantage. Hopefully we can keep in touching distance. And, well, to be fair, if Verstappen and Leclerc want to squabble in front of us, that's fine by me. So you can see, looking at the kind of times here, Perez on the medium tyres running a 1:09. By comparison, you have the likes of Verstappen on Leclerc, who have been squabbling away a little bit, a second slower behind. The difference in the tyres is rather significant now, and it should make for a lot more interesting races, a lot more spicy races. Of course, just as a little reminder, safety car around lap 33 onwards is what we'd like. Anything sooner, we're going to be in trouble. I thought both our drivers just got past Verstappen there. What has happened? Esteban Ocon has just snuck up down the middle. I mean, I'm not going to complain. I'm not sure how he's done it. He's now gone ahead. Okay, Esteban, should we try and get Alonso in front? If we could get Alonso in front of Leclerc, we can maybe then use him to hold up and try and get Ocon further up the road. Maybe a bit of tactical driving needed. But yeah, wheel-to-wheel racing. Really, really pleasing to see that on this hard tyre, we are still a very, very good car when it comes to this wheel-to-wheel racing. Unfortunately, all this wheel-to-wheel racing is costing us time and is limiting our ability to pull away from the Mercedes. The Mercedes are following us, you can see, in 7th and 8th. Gasly and Bottas, the next cars behind, a long, long way behind. Definitely kind of 4 fast cars, I suppose. The Alpine, the Mercedes, the Red Bull and the Ferrari. And then there's everyone else. Running up the hill with Alonso, you can see the Red Bull and the Ferrari. Both have DRS here, looking to maybe try and make something happen on Esteban Ocon. It's like sharks swimming around a small little fish. The small little fish is Esteban Ocon. He's now in the middle of a Red Bull Ferrari sandwich. He's dropped down to 4th. He's dropped down to 5th. And what I'm beginning to realise here is even when we tell our drivers to push, without the help of DRS, were not faster than the Red Bull and Ferrari. We're not going to get away from them. Lap 9 here, some really, really good news. Russell and Hamilton are slowly getting dropped a little bit behind. Unfortunately, because Leclerc and Verstappen are racing so hard, they kind of are backing us up. But there was a moment there where there was a gap between ourselves and the Mercedes. You can see Russell, then Hamilton, they are just sniffing in behind. Really, it's in our interest for Leclerc to clear Verstappen and then vanish up the road. At the moment, it doesn't really feel like that's going to happen. And as a result, it could, well, see us get backed up into a whole world of trouble as Alonso gets overtaken by Russell. They're still side by side here racing.
Let's keep your head down.
I'm going to tell Alonso just to push and get a little bit aggressive. Same with Ocon. We've got a little bit of excess fuel. Of course, the fuel has now changed and just basically shows the exact fuel you have to a decimal place and how many kilograms of excess you have. I prefer this system. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. And I also know on this update, fuel is a little bit funky on certain tracks. Good news is, for us here at Austria, it's absolutely fine, I've heard. So we should be okay. And well, we continue to be okay because Alonso has managed to shrug off the challenge of Russell. And he is back up into 6th place. I am wondering how much the engine wear is having a factor on our drivers here. Ocon up in 3rd. I've set him to deploy just to try and build a gap to the 2 Mercedes, who are realistically the team I'm most paranoid about here. Both our drivers having a little bit of engine wear. It's not too significant. For people who don't know, if you go to lap history and then click on car condition, you can actually look at the condition for other teams. So, for example, you can see here Ferrari, they've got, well, ERS and gearbox issues for Leclerc. Sainz's engine isn't great either. Same with kind of Verstappen and Perez. In fact, Perez is fine. Verstappen is struggling, though. Might explain why Perez is so much faster than Verstappen this weekend. But yeah, we're not the only team suffering from these problems, but I do feel like it's perhaps limiting our ability to pull away. Also, I've set us on deploy for half a lap to try and build a gap. We've built a gap of sorts. I mean, Verstappen apparently, for a second, was out of DRS range on Leclerc. The Mercedes, and I think you get a better idea of it here, they are getting dropped, but they're working together, kind of slingshotting with the DRS. And I can't get away from them. But Ocon doing really, really well in 3rd right now. I think the pack is slowly starting to spread out. Kind of expected Leclerc to vanish up the road on these mediums. You can see he's running at 77%. To be fair, with both Alonso and Ocon, we have been aggressive on these tyres to try and, well, build up a gap. Hasn't really worked out quite as I wished, and I think now is the time to maybe tell them to chill a little. Compared to everyone else on the hards, we've eaten for our tyres a little too quickly. Okay, some really good news, and it might not look like good news right now, but Ocon and Alonso running 5th and 6th. So we've lost a couple of places, but we're still alongside Verstappen and Leclerc. The big headline news, though, we have managed to pull 4 seconds ahead of Mercedes. It looks like they are going a little bit longer, perhaps. I was going to say on their tyres. They're going on the mediums. I guess maybe they're just trying to make them last. Of course, tyres do now have kind of performance drop-off that is more significant as the wear gets more severe. Right now, they are just, well, compromising each other's races, but I think the tyre wear is starting to, well, limit their pace. But 4.5 seconds, not insignificant at all. That has grown very, very quickly, lap on lap. If we just look at kind of the previous laps, you can see it's about a second a lap we're taking out of them. I think we are getting a bit of a piggyback off Leclerc and Verstappen, but I'm not going to complain about that. It is a race of patience. We've still got that tyre wear and tyre kind of usage toned down. A little bit of fuel excess. Kind of would like to charge up the battery a little bit more, but right now, we will happily get a little bit of a tow, I think, for the next few laps. I know you're not meant to enjoy other people's misery, but Hamilton has just spun out. Weird place to spin out. Weird point in the corner to spin out. I'm not going to complain. He's in the mud in 8th. We're still following everyone else. And then Ocon has just gone really wide. We've just lost a lot of time there, haven't we? That's not good. I was just talking about how good it was all going. And then running in 5th, Ocon goes for a wander. Not good in terms of he's going to be out of DRS range of the guys in front. But the good news for us really is he has got 4 seconds to Russell. But yeah, Ocon's been running with the pack. He isn't anymore. Yeah, this is going to be a bit more tricky now for Ocon. Made his race difficult, but still in not a bad position. I guess I've got to look at the positives. It could have been a worse error. It's not great. I guess that's what I get for enjoying Hamilton's misery, isn't it? Why did I laugh? Why did I laugh? Ocon, he's gone wide 2 laps ago. He's gone wide again. And he's going wide here. Both Mercedes have cruised by.
ropes today.
That is me right now. That is actually what I'm doing right now. I'm fine. This is fine. He's down in 9th. He lost about 12 seconds of that lockup. And a bad day for Ocon. It's getting worse. Why did I enjoy Hamilton's spin? I mean, it's very instant karma. Okay, there's still 48 laps left. There's still a lot of racing. At least Alonso's still in 5th, right? I don't believe it. He's locked up again. He has locked up again. Esteban, are you okay? Like, is everything fine at home? What's happened?
Okay, so there we have.
It's the same corner again.
Well, they've lost it. They've locked up.
Like, is he okay? Esteban, I don't mean to be rude, mate. Are you actually okay? Like, we're not pushing you. The tyre temperatures aren't oddly high or anything. Also, do people like this camera angle I've got on Alonso right now? I've hit that during my angry clicking that I've done when Alonso's gone off. Oh, not Alonso, sorry, Ocon's gone off. Where is Ocon now? He's down in 10th. I mean, please just don't lock up again, mate. Please. If I could pit him now and put him on mediums, I probably would. He can't pit for at least another kind of 8 or 9 laps. The only silver lining in it is, despite all the lockups, his tyre wear is actually perfectly fine. Which is something that probably should be updated in game. But as it is right now today, I'm grateful it's the way it is. Okay, Bottas has gone wide here. Ocon is going to get the move. Verstappen is still, well, up in 3rd, you can see here. But Leclerc has lost a little bit of ground on the medium tyres. And elsewhere, Hamilton has pitted, come out 14th with a little bit of clean air.
Okay, nice job. Well done.
So, going to be interesting now to see if Russell pits this next lap. Is he coming into the pits here? He's not. He started on the same tyres as Hamilton. Looks like they're going to let him go a little bit longer. Meanwhile, I mean, Alonso's just enjoying a bit of a scrap at the front now with Verstappen. Leclerc's on those mediums. He has lost a lot of ground. I'm not sure if there was an incident that just didn't get flagged by the game. But, I mean, it's a tale of 2 races right now. Ocon's in 8th, but a few of the guys around him have pitted. And, well, Alonso's just vibing. He's doing great right now up in 4th. He and Verstappen DRSing each other along. Life's good. Although, we have got a wild Nicholas Latifi just up the road. Okay, a really big moment in this race. Perez and Leclerc have pitted. Right now, Alonso is getting past Latifi, as you just saw there. And now he's also going to get past the Aston Martin that has very kindly moved out the way. And also, they've done us a little bit of a favour because they've kind of boxed Max Verstappen off. Unfortunately, he is going to be behind us. He is going to have DRS. We are not, I don't think, going to have DRS of our own because we made the overtake on that Aston Martin early. Elsewhere, Leclerc has also gone into the pit. So this is where all those guys on the mediums have pitted. And, well, the worst kind of case scenario where an early safety car happened that gave them a free stop for the hards hasn't happened. Alonso's in 2nd. And, well, now it's time to go long. Elsewhere, by the way, Ocon trailing Bottas. Leclerc, who's just pitted, is just ahead of him up the road. Maybe we could get a little bit of a piggyback off Charles. That'd be nice if we could do that between now and the end of the race. Right now, though, to be honest, Ocon's struggling to get past Valtteri, which is concerning. So all the initial pit stops have happened. Everyone who was on the medium tyres to start has now pitted. You can see George Russell's running in 9th. Zhou Guanyu has kind of slotted in between, which is interesting, although he's yet to stop. Elsewhere, of the front runners, Perez is still in the lead of this race. He is currently 4.5 seconds ahead of Sainz and Leclerc. Of course, both Ferraris started on the mediums. They didn't split their strategies. Red Bull did split their strategies. And of course, we kind of just did the complete opposite to, well, what Ferrari were hoping was going to work. In terms of our race now, really, if Ocon could get past Bottas, that'd be nice. Although, really, if we could just maintain DRS to Leclerc, that would be good too. Ocon's smoothness means I think we can go a little bit longer on these tyres if we want to, as opposed to what we considered the ideal pit stop previously. Of course, Ocon's lost a lot of time going off the track, but Alonso's not in a bad spot. Alonso is in really a position now where if a safety car was to happen, I'd probably pit for the mediums and go very, very long on them. But he could easily end up coming out ahead of the likes of Leclerc, which, considering Leclerc is now on hard tyres to the end, would be quite nice on the mediums. Multiple cars have crashed. Multiple cars have crashed. Who's crashed? Alonso over to Verstappen. Verstappen's been given a penalty, and he's hit Alonso. Alonso's tyres are done. He's on 17%. I don't think there's a safety car. Alonso and Verstappen are racing for the lead. They're doing each other a favour. They're working together. And then Max just hits the back of him. I mean, I think Alonso's tyres are done here. I could be mistaken. They're down at 17% wear. Oh my God, it's the rear left. His rear left is done. We are going to have to pit for mediums here. Oh my word, this is worst case scenario. I mean, Verstappen has a penalty, which I suppose is good. Doesn't really do us any favours right now. Alonso's damage to the rear wing is not good, but it's not something we can fix. He's also got minor suspension damage. The engine, of course, was already knackered. His tyres are gone. Everything has gone wrong today.
Okay, copy.
Get into the pit, Alonso. He is going to have to make these mediums last to the end. He is not going to be able to push at all.
Okay, understood.
Oh, I hate everything. I think I hate everything. Alonso is coming out of the pits. Verstappen didn't pit that lap, even though I think he has damage. I mean, he must have damage to his nose, right? Because he hit us in the back. Either way, Alonso is back on track in 4th. We can't push the tyres like we were previously. If we just look at things here, the mediums to the end, I need to edit the strategy here. If we have it on kind of standard use, he should be fine. But we're not really in a position anymore to push with Alonso on tyres. We're not going to be able to go motor racing as such. But he has come out ahead of Leclerc by 3 seconds. The question mark, I guess, is how bad is the suspension damage? How bad is the rear wing damage? How much is that going to cost us to Leclerc, who, well, currently is still battling away with Ocon. Of course, Ocon hasn't stopped. Everyone in front of him has now stopped. Verstappen is in the pits as well, presumably to change his nose. It is showing soft tyres here. That's usually a visual bug. Sometimes it shows the tyres they're going onto when you jump onto them in the pit lane. There's now another yellow flag in Sector 2. Has someone else had a moment? Verstappen has had to wait to serve out his 5-second penalty as well. Schumacher had a spin that's not going to cost him. They did fix his wing. There isn't an animation for the wings in the pit lane. But yeah, Verstappen's coming out. The only silver lining in all of this is he has lost about 15 seconds to Alonso by hitting him. But he has also ruined both our races. And in fact, he's going to come back behind a load of traffic. Looking at things here, Norris, Bottas and Zhou are all on these used hards. Looks like Russell and Hamilton are just unable to get past them. So the only crumb of comfort I have in all of this really is the cars that are racing directly behind us, or at least were before the madness of the last kind of 10 or so laps happened, are stuck in traffic. That makes me feel happy. The downside, of course, being Alonso's got to make these mediums last a long time. Interesting that Verstappen's gone on to softs. I don't think these are going to last to the end of the race. I think he's going to have to stop again. So Ocon's pit window opens in 1 lap's time. We're currently battling wheel to wheel with Bottas. We're losing a little bit of time on Leclerc up the road, although realistically, we're not really racing Leclerc at this moment in time. With Ocon, it is going to just be a bit of patience here, picking the right time to pit. We're going to have to keep a very close eye on Bottas. We could even maybe look for the undercut on him. Assuming Bottas is on the same strategy as us, he's going to be pitting around lap 43 for the mediums. If we pit a lap sooner, can do a blistering lap on the mediums, and he's on the older tyres still, we might be able to make a bit more of a gap by going for the undercut. Equally, I could gamble with Ocon and just try and wait out a safety car. Is there likely to be a safety car before Ocon's tyres hit a cliff at about 30%? Do I stick to the plan, or do I go rogue and take a gamble? And if I was to take that gamble with a pit under a safety car, is it actually going to benefit us that much? It's honestly hard to judge at this moment in time. I think regardless of whatever we do here, we are very likely to come out behind Russell and Hamilton. And if that is the case, there's going to be all those other cars in the way that we looked at previously. I don't think pitting for Ocon right now is the right thing to do. I think we're going to end up keeping him out and going longer, hoping that we can maybe create a little bit of a gap for him to go into, because from where he is now in 5th, if we pit him, there's a reasonable chance he's going to come out behind this pack of cars here. And while some of them are also going to stop, it's not a good position to be in. It's just not. I'm gambling. Everything's gone wrong today. Let's take a gamble that may or may not work out. I guess the only silver lining in all of this is, despite his damage, Alonso is still ahead of Leclerc for now, although he has gained by about a second. Another competitor's locked up. Carlos Sainz is locked up from 2nd. Carlos Sainz in 2nd is now locked up. What is happening?
Is that a lock-up on the track?
What is happening? I mean, how far is Alonso behind? 4 seconds. A little way, unfortunately. I mean, I feel like a safety car's going to happen. I don't know how we've not had one yet. That seals it. That lock-up by Sainz has convinced me I'm keeping Ocon out for as long as I can. I've had Alonso in push for ages here on the fuel. Unfortunately, he's not been able to pull a gap to Leclerc. Elsewhere, Bottas is now in the pits, which kind of eliminates the option that I had to go for the undercut on Ocon. If I pit a lap later, I think probably Gasly comes out ahead of us. I think we stand to gain most if we just wait and hold out for a safety car and hope something magical can happen in our favour in a race where everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. I'm thinking about Ocon's strategy now, and I'm starting to think maybe we see things out and then go on to the softs, perhaps a little sooner than the initial kind of strategy suggests here, because there is a little bit of life left in these softs. But yeah, I think we're going to go motor racing. I think we're going to keep Ocon out, put him on the softs. They are going to be much faster than the other tyres, especially on teams who are pitting now for mediums. The fresh softs versus the worn mediums could work out in Ocon's favour, even more so if there's a safety car, but even without it, I think he stands a pretty good chance of at least securing, I want to say, a top 8 finish. The reality is now that because of all the lockups and stuff, we were running behind Mercedes before they pitted. Despite them being stuck in the traffic, I don't think Ocon's going to be ahead of them after his pit stop, no matter when we do it. I'll tell you what, we're getting lots of yellow flags, but no safety car. Every time something happens, I get a little bit giddy. I get a little bit excited. Perez is locked up from the lead. I think someone else had an incident afterwards as well. Can someone just crash? That would be really nice right now for Ocon. Please. Thank you. I'm not having a meltdown, I swear. The latest I could wait with the softs for Ocon probably is lap 54. Right now, if we look at his lap times, obviously these hards are much more worn now. He's running 109.9s. Bottas is running about a second a lap faster. That is quite a significant difference. And that is the kind of difference that means if I do pit now, I'm going to come out way behind him. I'm still not sure if Verstappen is going to be able to run to the end. Oh, I feel like I probably should have pitted with Ocon, but we've now committed to a strategy that requires a little bit of luck. We'll see us go racing at the end. I suppose we're going to get to see how effective the fresh softs are as a race tyre. Obviously, new patch, new experiments. We're going to live, we're going to learn, we're going to laugh, we're going to cry when it all goes wrong. I mean, it's all gone wrong so far today, so why not assume it's going to continue? Ocon, please don't lock up and go into the back of Verstappen. Okay, thank you. So Ocon's pit window has opened here if we want to pit on lap 54. That is about as late as we can pit on the hard, sadly. So 3 laps for a safety car to happen. Elsewhere, right now, Alonso is not a million miles away from Sainz, 1.9 seconds behind. Leclerc currently trailing by 2.7 seconds. So despite that damage that Alonso has to his car, he is still doing a really good drive now. And his mediums, they look like they are kind of pretty much on course for what we expected them to do. Of course, both Leclerc and Sainz are on hard tyres around him that are going to wear more slowly. And whilst they are right now a slower race tyre, as the mediums wear and the hards kind of maintain their condition a little bit more, they probably are going to start to be a little faster than Alonso right at the end of this race. Interesting to note, a few other teams who obviously are going for the similar hard, soft strategy have now pitted. Tsunoda, Zhou, Mick Schumacher as well, all now on these fresh softs. With that in mind, I think now is the lap to pit. And it kind of stings to say that. It kind of stings to admit that. But we've tried to make things work with Ocon. He's at 38% wear. He can eat up what's left of these tyres. He's going to get really punchy on his softs. But that safety car that we kind of needed to make this strategy work isn't going to happen. I mean, we were running behind the Mercedes after all the lockups before they pitted anyway. So in order to get past them, we kind of knew we had to take a gamble. Unless something very radical happens in the next 45 seconds, it's a sad day. Okay, Ocon is entering the pits here on his softs. Elsewhere, or for his softs rather, he's not on his softs yet. Elsewhere, Alonso losing ground to Sainz, Leclerc catching up with Alonso. I do think Alonso is kind of on course for at least a top 4 finish. Verstappen is the next car behind, but obviously with all his issues, he is currently, what, 12 seconds behind Alonso? So it's not the worst situation in the world. The question mark now is, where is Ocon going to come out in relation to Bottas? They were racing wheel to wheel before. And to be honest, it's not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. The sooner we can clear Bottas as well, the sooner we can look further up the road. Hamilton is currently 6.2 seconds ahead, but he and Russell are on hard tyres. That is not a fast tyre at all. And we've got 16 laps left of this race. We're on the tyres across one lap, looking at about 4%. We're going to be able to race hard on these until the very end. We are going to be pushing hard like this, lap on lap. Ocon has breezed past Bottas like he's not even there. 5.5 seconds to Mercedes. We're coming for them. Unfortunately, elsewhere, Leclerc is currently coming for Alonso, who is on the podiums for now. I don't think he's going to be on the bottom spot of the podium come the end of the day. And also, Bottas has just got past Ocon. I hate everything. I hate DRS. It just makes me angry. It just makes me upset. We're trying to catch the Mercedes and Bottas is just ruining everything. So after the pit stop with Ocon, we are now sat behind Gasly, slowly eating into the lead that Hamilton and Russell have over us. It currently sits at 5 seconds. Ocon did momentarily make it past Bottas, but with the kind of effect of DRS and the fact that Bottas is on medium tyres, it is looking a little on the tricky side. With that in mind, I don't want Ocon to get too aggressive on his tyres. I say all of that. He's made a move on Bottas. Maybe now we go for it. We've charged up the battery over a lap or two to leave him in a position where he can now deploy, can get a bit feisty. The Mercedes are 4.5 seconds up the road. I'm hoping that Bottas behind is going to be dropped by us by a second before we get to that DRS zone on the start-finish straight. Push, Ocon, push. This is really important to build this gap. We've charged up the battery. I can't leave all of this turned up to the max for too long because the tyres will overheat and we will lose a bit of performance. Has Bottas got DRS? He has got DRS, and the issue here is the next kind of 2 straights coming up also have DRS. So as much as we're now catching on Mercedes, this is just helping Bottas keep in touching distance, and it is not realistic for me to keep in deploy forever. The only silver lining actually is we've just passed a Haas and been able to get DRS over them, which helps us out a little bit as we continue to hunt down the Mercedes who are racing in front. Maybe Ocon can still get 6th. Worth noting, with 13 laps left, Verstappen is in 5th, but his tyres are very, very bad. I'm almost certain he's going to have to pit again for softs, and when he does, I think Ocon might come out ahead of him. 5th place might be possible here for Ocon. He's going to have to get his racing on. He has now built a gap over Bottas of more than a second, so no more DRS for them. And while these 2 cars in front, these are the Mercedes. It's Hamilton and Russell. Ocon has just set a fastest lap of the race. He is cruising right now. Unfortunately for us, though, with 11 laps left, Leclerc has caught up with Alonso. He is going to have DRS. I can't push too hard here. And with that move, Alonso does slip down to 4th place. The damage is definitely a factor. Of course, we're on these mediums that we went on to much sooner than I really wanted to. The performance of them is going to drop off kind of significantly now. And we are going to be kind of marginally within that performance range of the 30% by the end of the race. As much as I'm pushing here with Alonso, as much as DRS might help us keep in touching distance, the longer we try and keep up the fight, the tougher it's going to get. Elsewhere, Ocon on harvest has actually managed to get past one of the Mercedes. He's got past Russell. Hamilton's the next up the road. Someone has also spun out. I'm not sure who's had that moment. I mean, Ocon's battery is kind of charged here. Shall we have a go? Shall we have a go? Let's have a go. Ocon, you've got DRS here. If you could get past Hamilton, you have the battery to really push before the start-finish line to try and build up a gap of more than a second. He flies past Hamilton like he's not even there. Next up the road for us is Max Verstappen. 17 seconds ahead. Need this gap to be built to a second by the start-finish line. But Ocon, he's doing a good recovery drive. This kind of strategy of going onto the softs late, the faster racing tyre, really seems to be working. On this patch, this tyre is much quicker. We're seeing it firsthand, and in fact, you can see here, Ocon 1.1 seconds ahead of Hamilton already. This has pretty much gone as well as I could have hoped it was going to after Ocon locked up twice and spun out and whatever else happened during that sequence of events. 10 laps left. He's up to 6th. To Ocon, you can see here, just continually building this gap to Russell. It's just getting extended and extended. We are coming up to some back markers that might even help us by giving us some DRS. And elsewhere, Max Verstappen is pitting again. Obviously, he had to make that emergency pit stop after he hit Alonso. We made the decision to go on to fresh mediums. I question if Red Bull had fresh mediums to put him onto. In the end, they elected to go soft. Maybe they thought that the performance difference was going to be more significant, but he has been slow. And with that pit stop, and with hopefully the help of some DRS and the back markers very effectively getting out the way, thank you to them, Ocon is up to 5th. Hamilton and Russell have also managed to get past Verstappen, who finds himself in 8th. And all of a sudden, in a race that looked pretty awful, we look pretty good now with, what, 7 laps left for an uneventful end to the race and hopefully to finish 4th and 5th. If there's one thing I've learned about F1, when you want things to be uneventful, they very rarely are, but let's keep fingers crossed that the next time I return, it's for the final lap. Last lap of this race, Perez has passed the start-finish. Worth noting, Verstappen on these softs is a man on a mission. I questioned the strategy, didn't I, of going for 2 softs. I tell you what, he has got past the Mercedes, and, well, he's miles up the road from them. 8 seconds clear. They have been struggling. Ocon might need to be looking in his mirrors for the last lap and a half. Elsewhere, Alonso's fuel delta is a little closer than I'd like it to be. I'm going to ask him just to conserve for his last lap. We're not going to go for the fastest lap, which in fact Ocon already has on his softs, which you have to imagine no one is going to beat right at the end. I am telling Ocon to push here because I am a little paranoid of Max Verstappen behind. I think everything's going to be okay. Everything should be okay. I mean, Verstappen's not going to be in DRS range. You know what? Everything's fine. I'm calm. So Sergio Perez has won this race. Alonso is just about to cross the start-finish line to come 4th. So despite being hit and sabotaged by Max, he's had a very good race. Verstappen is catching Ocon. And I think if this race was a lap longer, we would have been in trouble. But the good news for us is Ocon is going to hold on to 5th place. Verstappen comes behind by only a second. Elsewhere, 2 Mercedes cars finishing 7th and 8th. And I mean, it's not quite the improvement that maybe I dreamed we could get. It wasn't a simple race. But ultimately, I think we have proven there pretty definitively we have the 3rd fastest car. And we can afford to gamble on our tyre strategy a little bit. Ocon made that longer kind of stint on the hards work really, really well. Got past the likes of the Mercs on the softs without any problems. And whilst it's not a podium, it's still a pretty good weekend all in all. So looking at the final standings for this race, Ocon did get the fastest lap. Of course, most of the fastest cars didn't run the softs at any point. I suppose Verstappen, the one exception to the rule there. I wonder if he had a little bit of damage after he hit Fernando. Of course, for Fernando, bit of a shame that we couldn't do anything too interesting with his strategy. Our hand was forced when he was hit by Verstappen. If he'd been hit a lap or 2 sooner, we probably would have had to have gone soft, a bit like Verstappen did himself. For Ocon, though, good performance in the end. I say good performance. Good finishing position. Not the best performance. Locking up a few times, spinning out as well. He made, well, things a little bit difficult and a little bit hard for us. In the end, though, all's well that ends well. 4th and 5th, we take that. In the driver standings, Perez winning that race sees him leapfrog Ocon. Of course, Perez really needed to win that race. He's had a really, really rough start to the season. Sadly for us, with Perez winning, it means that we can't close that gap on Red Bull. They are now 16 points ahead of us. Elsewhere, of course, Ferrari just in their own little world, it feels like. The AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo race for 5th continues to heat up too. Right now, Aston Martin, Williams, yet to score points. And to end things today, comment question of the day. We've got a regulation vote change. Should I vote for or against double points for the last race of the season? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to kind of gauge based on the number of comments from individuals what the majority think. This is your reward for watching to the end. You get to have a say in this. Yeah, I will be influenced by the will of the people. Hopefully you enjoyed the race today. I had a blast. It was good fun to be back. Hopefully we won't be waiting 2 weeks for the next episode. I am really sorry about that. I am aware as I say all of this, I'm actually on holiday for the weekend that's coming up. So I will try and get a video up for early next week at the latest. I can't give you my word on that though. So if I don't do it, just tweet me a few times at WorkTheSpace. Follow me there too. I give life updates. So if you want to know what's going on, That's a good place to be. Other than that, thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope this episode was good. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm enjoying the new patch. It definitely leaves you thinking a little bit more about strategy. Nice to see big performance differences between the tyres, and I think that is going to make for more interesting decision making, a bit like we had today, to be honest. Anyway, that is everything from me. I'm rambling away now. I'll see you for more soon. Until then, take it easy. It's me, Jack. I'll talk to you all in a bit. I'm out.